My dad always liked his women clean. He wanted them pretty and kind. He longed for a perfect being without any flaws. Her only thoughts would be love and admiration for him. He has a whole list of qualities that his mythical creature should fulfill, and might not surprise you that he hasn't had a long term relationship since my mom left 5 years ago. I was sure that he'd never find his perfect match, and even though I love my dad, I didn't think he'd deserve to find her. However, despite all odds, he did find the woman of his dreams, and it's the worst thing that's ever happened to us. Ever since her presence came into my life, I constantly feel as if something is suffocating me. Even before my dad officially introduced Jana, I wondered what kind of motive she could have for dating him. He'd started dropping her name during our phone calls a few weeks ago. I don't live at home at the moment because I go to university in Bavaria, and my dad lives on the outskirts of Berlin in a house that's much too big for him. I could already tell how excited he was about her, and I was happy for him until I learned more about her. You see, Jenna is closer to my age than his. She's gorgeous, as he always wanted, flawless, clear skin, shiny golden hair. Her makeup matches her features perfectly, it's never too much. She dresses modestly but sexy. Jenna cooks five-star meals and makes sure every spot in the house is always spotless. She takes care of our overgrown garden and scares away children that try to play pranks. The question is, what does she see in him? Look, despite his odd views of love, my dad's a nice guy, a quiet type, always in his own head, but not really deserving of a life inmate that fulfills all his dreams. One thing people might admire about him is his job, but he does some shady stuff with it too. You see, he's a surgeon and makes decent money, but some of it comes in pretty shady ways. Like when one of his mobster connections, some dead-eyed creep from one of the Kurdish clans in Berlin, drags in yet another caught-up gangster late at night. Honestly, I even wondered if Jana was a present from him, but that thought is so nasty that I tried to forget about it right away. Before I arrived in Berlin, I was skeptical, but also curious to meet the woman of his dreams. Now I wish I'd gone to Spain with my friends instead of spending my spring vacation with Dad and his new flame.
Oh my frickin' gosh, what a handsome young man. He looks just like you, Christopher.
The woman with light blonde hair shrieked. She was wearing a dress that was certainly too short for Berlin's early spring weather, and had her hair put up in a complicated hairstyle that looked painful. I stood in the driveway in front of my childhood home and tried to keep a smile on my face, but the situation already felt absurd. "Hi, you must be Jenna. I'm Nicholas," I nervously said. She nodded vigorously but didn't move away from the front door. Dad took a step forward, grabbed my bag, and waved me inside. They both looked far too excited to see me, but before I could pass the threshold, Jenna's expression fell completely. Her face was serious, her eyes wide open, and she simply stared at me, staying in the door frame so I couldn't pass by. She looked angry. Then Dad appeared behind her and gently put his hands on her shoulders.
Buddy, Jana really can't stand it when you drag in dirt.
I looked down at my shoes. They were a bit dirty, but really not that much. Jenna, however, looked at me like I was the Antichrist. I cleaned my sneakers and followed the crazy couple inside. You know how in movies and shows the actors never really eat any food? For example, they have a lunch scene, and every time they bring a bite to their mouth, the camera shifts somewhere else. Or they play around with their salads without ever taking a bite. Jenna ate like that. She had baked carrot cake with frosting and small marzipan carrots accompanied with freshly brewed coffee. We sat in our living room, which had never looked more tidy and clean. Dad sucked one bite after the other, and speaking with his mouth open.
So, how's school? Got a girlfriend, boyfriend, maybe?
Jenna sat there the entire time, turning her head to the left to smile at my dad and turning her head to the right to smile at me. A perfectly cut piece of cake was sitting on a plate with a neatly folded napkin. She kept moving her fork near the cake, never really touching it. From time to time, she would take the saucer with a cup of coffee, but nothing touched her lips, just like in the movies.
Why are you not eating, sweetheart?
She asked. Then she noticed I was staring at her.
It's not poisoned, you know. You won't get hurt as long as you don't make anything dirty.
She laughed. You're not eating either, I answered in a dry tone.
Well, you know how women are. Help me finish it?
She tilted her head, and I swear for a few minutes she forgot that people have to blink. That evening, my father needed to go to the hospital for his shift, so I decided I would go to my room to take a nap. Before Dad left, he came up to my room, which was the only place in the house that still looked messy, and took a seat on my bed. He looked nervous.
I know it's weird having a woman in this house again, but I do really like her, Nick.
Jenna was downstairs cleaning the kitchen. I nodded. Yeah, I get that, but how do I say this without hurting your feelings? Something is not right about her, Dad, I whispered. Dad rolled his eyes.
She simply likes things done a certain way. But don't worry, you'll totally learn. Actually, to make things easier, I wrote a little list.
He handed me a piece of paper.
Be a good boy, and who knows, we might become a happy little family soon.
He grinned and ruffled my hair like I was a little kid. You know, something's not right about you either, Dad. I half joked.
Ha! See you later, buddy. Don't bug Jana too much.
He went downstairs and I heard him chatting and giggling in the kitchen. They were really acting like teenagers. Maybe I was exaggerating, I thought, until I took a look at the list Dad had given me. Jana hates it when you forget to lock the door. Jana hates television and all form of media. She won't like it if you use your phone around her. Jenna doesn't like it when you use the kitchen. Jenna, with a loud thud, the front door closed downstairs. Not even a second later, I heard her sprinting upstairs. She stopped right in front of my room, breathing audibly in front of it. I could just imagine her nose pressed against the wood. For a second, I stood there frozen, too shocked by the situation. And then she started scratching the door. Jana?
Nicholas,
She whispered.
help me with dinner.
Her voice sounded raspy. I swallowed and remembered what Dad wrote on the list. Jana doesn't like it when you use the kitchen. Sorry, I'm really tired. I want to take a nap. She kept scratching a little longer, but finally I heard her leave. For the next few hours, I stayed in my room. She was cooking, and I'm not gonna lie, it smelled fucking delicious, but I decided I had to get out before she asked me to have dinner with her. I grabbed my phone and my wallet and headed downstairs as quickly as I could. Just as I reached the door, I felt her presence behind me. Ignoring it, I turned the knob, but the door was locked.
We can't go outside. Dinner is ready.
Jenna hates it when you forget to lock the door. I'm sorry, Jenna. I'm meeting my friends in city. I tried to speak confidently.
No.
She spoke firmly.
Help me set the table.
We had a very awkward dinner where she didn't eat but instead watched me the entire time. She wouldn't even give me a knife and fork to eat, but we were both using spoons for our pasta and for the meat. I was counting the seconds, and finally the door unlocked from the outside. My dad was home again.
I'm back. What are my two favorite people up to?
We heard him call into the house. Then his eyes opened wide and she jumped up to go and greet him with a big hug. I went back to my room, wondering why the hell I didn't grab my bag and leave for the train station. It was as if something was keeping me here. not just the locked door. Nighttime came and the house turned quiet. I stayed in my room, the only place that felt somewhat normal until I had to go to the bathroom. I kept it in for longer than I'd like to admit. I'm 22 years old, in my own home, with my father and some young women. Why was I feeling so paranoid? I collected my confidence, went out into the hallway, and remembered why I was feeling so freaked out. Then I was standing by a window in the hall, her face pressed against the glass. When she heard me, she turned her head and made inaudible noises. The voice hardly escaped her mouth, her lips were pressed tightly together. She pulled them with her fingers, but only muffled sounds came. I took a step back, and she grabbed my arm. With her sharp fingernails, she started scratching deep into my flesh. I tried to pull away, but she was holding me tightly. "What the fuck?" I shrieked. "Dad!"
Jana, sweetie, don't scare my boy. He'll leave again soon,
he said in a voice that seemed far too calm.
Of course not, honey. Do you want a late night snack? Both of you maybe? You can help me make it, Nicholas.
Suddenly her voice was back. No thanks, I mumbled. She smiled at me and turned around to go downstairs. Unsure what to make out of the situation, I ran to my dad's bedroom, trying my best to convince him that we needed to get the hell away from Jenna. Dad looked at me for a while, but then he smiled.
She's just some sweet girl. How could she be dangerous?
I held up my arm. The one she had just turned bloody, and finally I saw some look of fear on my dad's face.
How did she do that?
He whispered.
I control everything she does.
What? I looked at my arm and noticed that she hadn't simply scratched me. She had tried to write something.
Help.
And finally it clicked. It was him. The things on the list weren't her rules. They were his. There were no knives because he kept them away from her. She was the one trapped in here. But why didn't she tell me while my father was at work? He grinned when he saw my brain working.
Nicholas, my boy, this is going to be great for us. Jana is only the first step. I can do so much more.
How?
Do you remember Soren? I took care of his people sometimes.
I nodded, a bitter taste filling in my mouth. Soren the mobster, with no remorse.
Well, he wanted to say thank you and put this thing inside of me. At first I thought it would hurt me, but it doesn't. Instead, it's given me power.
His grin got even bigger.
It's given me the ability to be really convincing. Oh, don't look at me like that. She's happy. I can tell we get along great, and you know she might be your stepmom soon.
I don't understand, Dad. That's impossible. His expression got more serious, his voice louder.
How do you think Soren is able to control all of Berlin, huh? He has everything a man could wish for, and now he's shared some of that power with me. I've been stitching up those shitty criminals for decades now. I deserve some reward.
I felt like I was about to throw up. My hands got all sweaty. He put my face in his big hands.
Don't look so scared, my sweet boy. You will never be hurt. The three of us will be so happy together, and who knows? Perhaps I'll even be able to let you have a taste of this power soon too.